Roman Catholics have a brand new pope, and by all accounts, he's a very humble man. Let's hope that it stays that way. Will the new humble pope wear a gold papal ring weighing 35 grams fashioned by 8 artisans working 15 hours a day for 2 weeks? Will the new humble pope allow people to kiss his priceless fisherman's ring? Will the new humble pope wear a gold hat and a royal gold cape? Will the new humble pope allow people to bow before him? Will the new humble pope wear Jesuit sandals or red papal slippers? One wonders if the new humble pope will keep the papal crest of arms and all of the priceless art in the Vatican Museum, or will he sell some of it to help the poor? Will the new humble pope continue to live in the most expensive house in the world? Will he continue to fly in a privately chartered Alitalia 777? Will the new humble pope sit on a papal throne? Will the new humble pope wear the traditional 3-tiered bejeweled papal crown? Please meet the new humble pope. And in case you've forgotten, please meet the man the new humble pope represents.
A child of light. I'm going to ask you a question. I had received several visions in regards to the 9/11 strike on the East Coast during the year 2001, and I tried desperately to stop it, and nobody believed me. The visions that I have now, I'm going to tell you the visions, and I'm going to ask you if this is what you have seen and if prayers can stop it. Number one, I saw San Francisco being destroyed by a tidal wave at least 4 or 5 miles high, and it's going to come during the nighttime, and it's going to be preceded by a wind of close to 200 miles an hour. Number two, George, you be careful when you go to Hawaii, especially the Big Island. I saw an asteroid coming across the United States at night.
Oh, boy. A
portion of it breaks off and hits in the northwest, but the largest portion of it strikes the east coast of the Big Island of Hawaii, causing a huge tidal wave to envelop those particular islands. But this is the most ominous of all. North Korea has been threatening the United States with a nuclear strike.
Yes.
God has shown me several years ago, between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. in the morning, a Black 4-stage nuclear missile coming across the Pacific in between Long Beach and Palos Verdes, striking Los Angeles and destroying an area 20 to 30 miles in radius that looks like the landscape of the moon with the magma in the middle shooting up. Now, since February the 15th, I have sent letters with this vision to President Obama, to the Chairman, Joint Chief of Staff, General Martin Dempsey.
And I bet no response, right?
Wait, hold on a second. I'm going to tell you. To the mayor of Los Angeles, to the FBI in Los Angeles, the police chief in Los Angeles, the fire chief of Los Angeles, and Vandenberg Air Force Base, and Camp Pendleton, and you're exactly right. No response. This thing is about to happen. George Nuri's show, Coast to Coast, has allowed me to say this. I want to ask you, can prayers create an iron shield of protection over Los Angeles and the West Coast to prevent this disaster? Because if this thing strikes, 4 million people are lost. And George?
Let's see if that happens. Let's see if that happens. What do you think, Jonathan?
Well, I would say prayer can't do a shield against God's will, but prayer can definitely change things. And there either is in the Bible, it goes again and again. There are times when this calamity was falling, and prayers did change it. I mean, so yes, I mean prayers can absolutely affect it. Interesting that
we know it works.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, and I mean it says we pray along His will, and the will is for mercy. And I know several people who had this vision of 9/11 before it happened, and pretty much nobody listened, and that's because it's deeper than just, it's the course of the nation. So I think you've said it, and people take note, and the judgment can come in those ways. And yes, we need to pray.
And we have to pray pretty darn hard, don't we?
Yes, absolutely. One of the key messages, and that even links to the part where about the mystery ground. There's actually a scripture that goes along with that mystery there, and it is the one. It says this: "If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their own evil ways, I'll hear from heaven. I'll forgive their sin, and I'll heal their land." And that is the key in the Bible. If my people and prayer.
Are you scared of the harbinger?
I'm not, because George. I mean, I would be if I was outside. If I didn't know where I was with God. I mean, I would be. But because I don't have a question about that. Not because of anything on me, but because I know the refuge I'm in. I don't, because the main thing, and people say to me, should I build a bomb shelter? Should we do this? And I'm not saying to do or not do, but I will say one thing. In Hebrew, the word for safety is Yeshua, and Yeshua is also the name of Jesus. And the main thing is be right with God, and you don't have to be fearing at night. Just make sure you're right. Make sure that's the main thing.
What if you're not right? What happens?
If you're not right, I would fear.
I would.
And
that's pretty strong coming from a former atheist, huh?
Absolutely, but a former atheist who was hit by a locomotive train. So absolutely. I would. The thing is, there's a thing that says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. If I wasn't in God, if I didn't know that, I would be afraid. But the fear, not to stay in fear, but to get right with God. Get into Him. Because there's nothing stronger, there's nothing safer. And again, really the Bible's all about salvation. It's about being safe, being saved, get right with God. Get right, and again, the name for safety is the same name, happens.
Whoa, did you see that?
Ебать, а! Что это хуйня? Никит, что это такое? Бомбардировка, нахуй! Артподготовка, блин! Да не сын, пока еще ничего нет. Артподготовка это. Ебать! Что такое? Хуя заснял материал. Да! Да, за куртками, пошлите сбегаем.
All
of us on this planet are on the brink of a kind of close encounter. A big asteroid is hurtling through space, and it's supposed to miss us by a cosmic inch, just 17,000 miles. That's closer than some of our weather satellites. In fact, it's so close, scientists are springing into action, and here's ABC's Neil Karlinski.
Right now, while you're watching this, a chunk of space rock big enough to level a city is hurtling towards our planet 8 times faster than a speeding bullet. The good news is, scientists say it will miss. The scary news is, the 130,000 metric ton asteroid called DA-14 is the size of half a football field, and it will be much closer than the moon. In fact, it will thread the needle between Earth and the roughly 600 satellites around us, the ones that your cell phone relies on, possibly even smashing one to smithereens on its way by. But if that's why you're thinking this is all still a long, long way from all of us way down here walking the streets, you may want to think again. The last close call turned out to be a direct hit. It was 1908, and luckily it hit the middle of nowhere, Siberia, decimating 1,000 miles of trees, but no people.
If a very large asteroid hit, it would probably create the same kind of disaster that wiped out the dinosaurs.
Amazingly, no one knew DA-14 was headed our way until a Spanish dentist and amateur astronomer randomly discovered it a year ago. NASA doesn't have the resources to look for asteroids, which is why a trio of American astronauts and rocket scientists are raising money to launch their own asteroid early warning system called Sentinel, a dedicated telescope scanning the stars for threats.
This asteroid is a wake-up call that we should be looking out there. These things do hit the Earth.
Scientists say we can keep the planet safe if we just know what's out there.
The sky. An NBC6 viewer was in the right place at the right time when a meteor was passing overhead. This is video of that meteor as it happened. Now, reports of similar sightings happened all across the state, from Jacksonville all the way down to Key West.
Starstruck, and did you see it? The Bay Area dazzled by a dramatic and unexpected fireball in the sky. Good evening and thanks for joining us on this Friday. I'm Raj Mathai.
And I'm Jessica Aguirre. The sky's brimming with action. First, an asteroid skims past Earth tonight, and now a meteor streaks across the Bay Area sky. I want to show you the dashcam uploaded video on YouTube that shows what appears to be the fireball as it crossed around 7:45.
Any chance asteroid 2012 DA-14 will pose a threat to Earth. It's about 50 meters wide and weighs about 130,000 tons. No object of this size has passed so close to Earth since records began, and it's an event that only happens once every 40 years.
The close approach of this object 2012 DA-14 on February 15th is nothing to worry about. Its orbit is very well known. We know exactly where it's going to go, and it cannot hit the Earth.
His second term, from looming questions over Benghazi to the war in Afghanistan. Keep it here as our special coverage of Inauguration Weekend continues.
zu geben. Trotzdem, Herr Professor Schlepfer, an diesem Tag sollte man sich vielleicht der Tatsache vergewissern, dass wir alle nicht ewig leben und so ein bisschen uns der eigenen Endlichkeit vielleicht das nochmal gewahr werden?
Ja, natürlich, aber das machen wir nicht gerne. Das ist unsere große Angst, dass wir vorbestimmt dazu sind, einmal zu sterben. Das macht uns Angst. Und gerade solche Katastrophenszenarien lenken von dieser Angst ab und ist damit auch ein Verteidigungsmechanismus. Und vielleicht sollten wir uns bemühen, ein bisschen gelassener unserem eigenen Ende entgegenzugehen, deshalb, weil es unausweichlich ist. Vielleicht kommt dann ein bisschen mehr Lebensfreude auf und mehr Energie für die positiven Dinge des Lebens.
Yeah. Two lights, that, Steve.
It is two lights next to each other, but it's not moving, is it?
Yeah. Stationary, innit? I'm just going to get it lined up with a light.
Well, originally I wrote it like straight out. I mean, I wrote it as factual as you know, as it came to me.
Yeah.
And then it was led, you know, there's deep things in the Harbinger, and to do it in a way that would communicate and reach more people, make it easy to understand, and, you know, almost without even trying, that you start absorbing it. And, you know, it just kind of hit me in one day, and that in the, you know, in the Bible, there's stories used and imageries used to communicate truth. So I started, once I did that, I took the figure of the prophet representing all the prophets of the Bible. Some people ask me, are you the prophet? Are you Noriel, the guy who gets the revelation? And it's kind of splitting up my voice in this. And I took the symbol of the seals, and there actually are biblical seals. There's actually the seal that starts all the mystery and ends it at the end is actually a real seal from the prophet Jeremiah that we just discovered. So I took that as if there were a prophet, you know, living from the Bible today in New York City, and then did it in this way. And, you know, so people who wouldn't in any other way be able to receive this are able to receive it.
2 or 3.
Jonathan, as this all begins to unfold and we have this finite period, the caller prior talked about prayer, the ability to try to slow things down, stop them. We do have that right, don't we?
Absolutely. And, you know, it's, you know, one of the things, I mean, I believe, I mean, this kind of goes with the whole thing. I don't believe, you know, there would be, again, the harbingers or warnings or this book if there weren't hope and if there weren't, this is really a call to prayer. I kind of alluded to it earlier on that we've been getting, we've actually gotten contact from people in the Congress. And one very, very famous member of Congress got in touch with us, had read the book. I mean, these people were reading the book, were seeing the DVD, they read the Harbinger, and said, we have to do something. We have to pray for America. And this member of Congress came down, you know, met me and met some of us in New York City, went to the site of the Harbinger. Picture this, someone from Congress, they literally went to bow on bended knee when they saw something that happened in one of the Harbingers. Then they took us to the Capitol, and we prayed inside there. And there are people in leadership who are actually praying. I've talked to a general who's praying. So that is the whole point. Yeah, we have not the right. It's the cause. You know, that's the point. And God's got a mercy. You know, that's the whole point.
Okay, let's take the final calls here. We'll go to Minneapolis. Vince is with us on the Wild Card line. Hello, Vince.
Hi there. I'm not totally in agreement with this biblical time, but if I can ask the person in question. Of course. And I think I speak also for the majority of the callers. I think his definition of terrorist is different than the listeners. I think he might be thinking that the terrorist is Islamic extremists, or maybe their listeners are more inclined thinking that the terrorists are like world bankers and the Wall Street. So he might be a little bit political, partial towards a certain nation.
Não, peraí, deixa eu acabar aqui, vai acabar.
Well, let me tell you, the harm is not about an interpretation or anything as such, and it's a call. It doesn't, and regardless of what one feels about, the causes behind something, the fact is all these things are used, and this was a wake-up call, and listen, we're all living in this world, and our time is going to end, and we have to get right. So it doesn't matter. Forget about politics. The Harvard is not a political book. It's a spiritual book, and it's a revelation of something that is affecting all of us, that already happened once, and it's happening again, and this is the call.
Next up, Nathan in Charlotte, North Carolina, east this time. Hi, Nathan.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, Nathan.
Yeah, I heard, the other guy calling in about a vision. Well, I've had a vision, and in my vision, it was in June of 1998. I saw people on the altar, and they were praying. And the word birth came into my mind. And I also saw a date. I'm not going to say what month, but it was on the 23rd. And then God showed me Habakkuk 2:3, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak. Though it tarried, wait for it, or it will not tarry, but it will surely come to pass. And, I think with all these things, what God was showing me, there's an end and a beginning. And we're approaching the end and a beginning. And I was fasting and praying in 2008 in the election year, and I seen the number 44. And I didn't know what 44 meant. I went online and was looking at BibleWheel.com, and it said 44 meant birth. And I thought, the next president was going to be the 44th president, which is Obama.
Well, an interesting take about it. It's amazing, Jonathan, at how many people are having these prophetic feelings.
Yeah, and it's actually, to me, it's been more and more what I've seen. By the way, he said 4:4. Right now, it's 4:44 in Eastern Standard Time. So, but yes, it's. I've noticed that more and more, and I think there's a reason for that. A lot of times when something is going to happen, people are warned.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah,
that is true too. Do you believe that you have to be a believer, spiritual, in order to understand all this?
I believe, I believe that I don't think you have to be a believer to be warned and to get the message, to get the overall message. But I think to get the the fullness of it, I think that's kind of a process with that. But I think this is the Harbinger is a call to believers and to non-believers alike. And it is not to preaching to the choir. And I think the reason why it's gone forth in America is because it's going to people who are not believers. So I don't think you have to be a believer to hear kind of a trumpet call or a warning and saying wake up and get right. So I don't think you have to. I'll say that. I mean, there are things in it that are deep, but I don't think you have to get the overall message.
John is in Niles, Michigan on the wild card line. Hey, John, thanks for calling.
Hey, not a problem, George. How you doing this morning?
Good, thank you.
Good. I just want to start off by saying great show tonight, both you and Jonathan.
Thanks.
Now, my question is, you said previous in the show that New York used to be the old capital of the United States when George Washington was president. And when they dedicated the United States there at Ground Zero, did they actually have a national historical marker about that, or how did people find out about that?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, it actually the place where they dedicated America to God for that ground, it still exists. It's the oldest building in use in New York City. It's a little stone chapel right there at the corner of Ground Zero that actually was part of the whole land there, and it's called St. Paul's Chapel, and there is a marker that says that, and it's interesting that it's absolute history. And if you go inside, you'll find a place where Washington prayed, and there's a plaque there where at the beginning he says, "O Lord, keep America in your holy protection." So here it is right at Ground Zero, and you can look at it two ways. One is that's where the protection, in a sense, was lifted. On the other hand, all the buildings around Ground Zero were destroyed or ruined completely except one. There was only one that was protected. They called it the miracle of 9/11. And the one building that was protected was that little stone chapel where they dedicated America to God. And the reason why they said it was protective is because there was an object that absorbed the force of 9/11 and protected that chapel. And the object was the Harbinger. It was the sixth Harbinger. It was the sycamore. And so really the message, even in that, is that the point of this is not to condemn America, it's to save it. You know, that's the whole point of the Harbingers. But yes, you can go there. In fact, George, a lot of people since the book are going there, they, from around the country. And you go there, you'll see the chapel, you go in the backyard, and you'll see you'll see where the sycamore was, you'll see where the other tree that was planted was, and you'll see the Harbingers actually appeared on that ground. So that's another thing. But yes, it's right there in New York City to this day. How many capitals have we had? New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., just those three, or did we have any others? Yeah, I would say since the Continental Congress, or since actually America began as a nation, a fully formed nation, it was first New York City on 1789, and then it was Philadelphia, and then it was Washington. Why'd they keep moving around? Well, that's a good question. I think that, a lot of people don't want to stay in New York City. I think then secondly, that they were building capital. And actually,
Prophecy, March 23, 2013. Darkness is seen coming to the eastern USA. It is sure to happen. Churches must still prepare to be able to operate during this turmoil.
What the heck?
I was in the house, heard this loud boom, came outside, it actually shook the dishes in the cupboard, and I thought it could have been a meteorite like the one that hit Russia, but I'm scanning the clouds, and you can't see no vapor trails because it's all clouds. So I don't know when the hell that came from. It was pretty intense. Whoa.
Pope Benedict XVI in shock, resignation. Pope Benedict XVI is to resign at the end of the month after nearly 8 years at the head of the Catholic Church, saying he's too old to continue at the age of 85, reports BBC News. The unexpected development, the first papal resignation in nearly 600 years.
It is because we are in the end times that knowledge is being increased. Not just technological and scientific knowledge, but biblical knowledge also. This is what Gabriel prophesied at the conclusion to the book of Daniel.
So we're actually standing in the building where if they do discover life in space, this would be the place they would do it.
Hi, this is Tom Horn. I'm here with my good friend Chris Putnam.
We are at the base of Mount Graham, and we are on our way to the Vatican's Astronomical Technology Telescope. Oh, so we just received secret information.
Secret information. Wow.
So the Lucifer instrument is actually an instrument they use to gather infrared light. It is the largest telescope in the world. This first station is an instrument called Lucifer. This is the sort of device they use in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
But instead, inside the walls of this castle, an unassuming Jesuit from Argentina leads the Vatican astronomical research and has recently caused an uproar by opening a debate about aliens.
In a universe so big, huge, I would say, as the one where we live, with 100 billion of galaxies, with each galaxy with 100 billion of stars. Probably with many of these stars having planets, it could be possible that life could evolve as the way we know on Earth.
Father Funes says he is not sure if other forms of life would be more or less intelligent than humans, but he is convinced that the existence of aliens is not a contradiction with the Catholic faith.
If NASA did discover, or should I say rediscover, a 10th planet in our solar system, then why would they have the need to cover it up? I mean, this would be the biggest discovery of the century, and yet, if it is covered up, there must be some reason to withhold this information from the public.
The concept of a planet X or a 10th planet is not exactly new. The possibility of this object coming in and devastating our inner solar system is something mainstream astronomers certainly don't want to talk about.
Our Earth gives evidence that we have had periodic pole shifts. There's mountain building in and of itself is evidence. These mountains are like pushed together. If you're in an airplane and you look down at foothills, for instance, it almost looks like a rumpled blanket, like somebody took a blanket and pushed it and rumpled it. Mountains are forced upwards with great masses of rocks snapping. This is signs of great pressure, not the gentle squeezing and pushing that happens with earthquakes at all. Indeed, our Earth has had these periodic pole shifts. You can see that in the evidence of the Earth. Go back every time period and you can see other changes during these passages. And when we have pole shifts and violent geological earthquakes and changes and the like, shifting of the tipping of the Earth and shifting of the crust, volcanoes explode. And when they do, there's a lot of molten lava pouring out. Well, lava, being molten, will line up with the current magnetic field. And when lava hardens, that's a permanent freeze, indicating the direction of magnetism at that moment in time. Well, this is one way that they have determined the wandering pole theory, where they've identified places in Earth where they say at one time this appears to have been the North Pole, or that appeared to have been the South Pole, is through this frozen lava alignment. For instance, off of Japan, there's cities and roads that they find under the water. In Bermuda, we see roads and walls and the like. Likewise, land can rise. Atlantis is rumored to be a continent that went under the waves during one of these cataclysmic passages.
Back around 1650 BC, or if you want to give it a little more leeway, between 1500 and 1700 BC, there is considerable evidence for a calamitous event. In fact, there are stories from that time showing certain civilizations came and went, certain powers that be were overthrown at the time because of the celestial events that were happening and the earth changes that were happening.
The last passage was during the Jewish Exodus, approximately 3,600 years ago. Nobody knows for sure the exact date because during these passages, mankind is just discombobulated. They stop keeping records. Records are lost, so nobody can exactly pinpoint the date.
There is a pattern to the cataclysms on Earth. If we go back every 3,600-year period, we see that some major world catastrophe happened. We have the formation of Niagara Falls, the Great Lakes, mass extinctions. If it was inbound, there must be some signs of it approaching. Now, many scientists seem to say that the current Earth changes are due to global warming, man-made pollution, and this would make sense until we take account that there are other changes happening in the solar system. One such theory says that cow flatulence, believe it or not, is responsible for depleting our ozone layer, which leads to our polar caps melting. But what about Mars? What about Mars's polar caps? They seem to be melting as well. There are many changes happening in the solar system. So what would be influencing our entire solar system as a whole, not just Earth? Observations are being made, and with little notice to the public. This article from CNN tells of a potential killer comet detected with only weeks of warning. In recent times, new planets and outer solar bodies are being discovered and observed. With so much sky to observe, it's no wonder we have so many last-minute reports of potential near misses. Or could there be more that is being downplayed in the media or withheld altogether?
There are a lot of probes that we send to Mars or to the outer planets to do imaging, which could also have black ops projects attached to them that the public isn't going to know about. So if we send an orbiter to Mars to do a main mapping mission, it might have other black ops projects attached to that satellite collecting its own data that we're just not going to know about. And if they need to take into a full account the main mapping mission or take over that project for their own purposes, that satellite is gone. It becomes a black project. And people aren't aware of those facts.
The observatories around the world, many of them are very aware, acutely aware, and very worried about this inbound planet.
You really need to look at what's happening, the weather irregularities, the changes in the Earth, and think of it in terms of these periodic passages and make up your own mind.
We don't have to have a collision for something to affect us. It can affect us at a distance. It could be on the other side of the sun, have a very large discharge into the sun. The sun could erupt with a full coronal discharge, which means it would come off in all directions from the sun. And we would be very affected. Our weather would be very affected, and this new object, Planet X or whatever you would call it, would be very far away from Earth. So the thing I want to stress is that you do not need a direct collision with something to be affected.
In the years of the Reagan administration, there was a whole idea to push having a Star Wars system, that we would eventually be facing threats from from space, whether it be missiles launched theoretically by the Soviet Union and have a space-bearing attack on us. We were publicly apprised that they were going to set up a Star Wars system, a space defense system, and the other side to that is that there's been subtle nuances that also show, which tie into ufology and the whole trend with extraterrestrials. Is it not possible that the government does know more than they are telling us, with theories such as Roswell and aliens visiting us, that there could also be threats from outside our solar system, which we're now being made aware of subtly, like through the movies and media like Deep Impact or Armageddon, or NASA releasing information saying that an asteroid could whack us in 2028 or thereabouts. It's making the public privy to this information so that they have a case history of events to desensitize us to this information, so that when instantly there is something new in the skies or in the heavens, we're not freaking out.
The government agencies, they are basically under contract not to tell you anything. The scientists have signed non-disclosure agreements. Basically, they're under a gag order. It is impossible to go to a scientist and get a news release directly. You have to go through an official news release agency, and they would give you information that has been blended and made nice for you. They would put out possibly a web page that is equivalent of third-grade information, and hope that the general public takes this as the information that came out of NASA. When they have all this sophisticated equipment and incredible amounts of information, and today's populace is very sophisticated and intelligent and well-educated, it's really an insult, the information that they're putting out.
As it discusses in the Bible, there's a day of Armageddon, or in the Revelations that fire will fall from the skies and there'll be all types of calamities of this sort.
The world has been fixated at the astounding number of dead pigs that keep turning up in Shanghai's Huangpu River, while the counting isn't over as the bizarre event spread to other provinces.
Dead pigs are apparently washing up everywhere in China. More than 16,000 pig carcasses have choked a Shanghai river, and now 600 miles away, more pigs are washing up. On Thursday, residents in Changsha, Hunan province, reported having found 50 rotting pigs.
Our department has found isolated cases of farmers throwing their dead pigs in the river. When we're treating the bodies, we will use disinfectant. We also wear protective clothing to prevent cross-contamination from the dead pigs.
State-run Global Times reports more than 100 dead pigs were discovered in Hunan's Juzhou city. And it wasn't just pigs. One local authority says dead chickens and ducks have also appeared in Hunan. And it wasn't just in Hunan province. This newspaper from southwestern Sichuan province had a front-page report about more than 1,000 dead ducks floating on the river this week. Despite the discoveries, officials from all these places have claimed that local drinking water is safe to drink.
A discovery off the coast of Chile that has baffled authorities. Thousands of langoustines washed up in central Concepcion province. Beaches have been covered red as the Dublin Bay prawns were found. Investigators are trying to find out what has killed so many crustaceans in this case. It's too early to say whether it is natural death or an environmental crime, but police are not ruling out anything. Officers are due to go out into Coronel Bay to work out the sea temperature, electric conductivity, and most importantly, levels of oxygen. In recent years, a number of dead sea creatures have washed up on South America's Pacific coasts. Environmental experts say some possible explanations could be viruses, offshore oil exploration, and poisoned food sources.
Bangladesh is reeling after a powerful tornado tore through villages in the east of the country. The latest reports are that 20 people are dead, 200 are injured and hundreds more are without homes. The BBC's Anbarasan Ethirajan is in Dhaka.
Hundreds were rushed to hospitals like these after a powerful tornado wreaked havoc in eastern Bangladesh. The menacing wind left a trail of destruction in many villages. More than 20 people were killed and hundreds injured. The ferocity of the wind has left many villagers in shock. The tornado destroyed hundreds of small houses, uprooting trees and cutting power supplies. Many people were trapped under collapsing mud walls. The wind was so powerful, even trucks were overturned.
This is almost unprecedented for an astronomical event. So this is one of the first times in which people have communicated using social media.
The American Meteor Society says it received a record number of reports, more than 1,000, from witnesses in 15 states, Washington, D.C., and Canada Friday night.
As many people are waking up to scenes like these, it's no surprise to hear this is likely to be the coldest March in 50 years. In Northern Ireland, work has continued to restore power to tens of thousands of homes and businesses after a major fault caused by the bad weather. As rain and snow sweep across the UK, breakdown companies are reporting thousands of call-outs, some drivers abandoning their cars altogether. The emergency services have been battling to keep up with calls.
Dramatic video has emerged of a terrifying twister that ripped through Victoria's northeast overnight. The freak weather event destroyed homes and businesses and left 20 people injured, 2 of them critically.
Oh my God! Look at the tornado! Yep. Oh my God, Mum, it is a tornado. It's like, yes. Whoa! That That is insane. Holy crap. Oh my god.
What's that railgun? Oh, stop. Fuck. Power line just went. Fuck. Yeah, you watch the road. Fuck.
Here's one of the strange images Peggy Gervais shot Friday night from the deck of her Eden home of a pond near the house.
And I took a couple pictures of the pond and I put it on Facebook because I've never seen this before in our pond.
What did you see in the pond?
It was eerie. It's eerie in a way and it's cool in a way. It's crop circles.
Pond circles?
Crop, pond, water, ice circles. They're circles.
That's right, circles, usually seen in crops and fields like this one from August 2011 in North Collins. But this is a pond.
There are a couple different types of big-brained fossil creatures that have been found in the very, very recent past, say the last 30,000 years. Okay, one is called Cro-Magnon. That was very human-like, actually had a significantly larger brain than modern humans. Unbelievable information. That's fall down on the floor, amazing information, okay? That trashes everything the evolutionary theory people have been wanting to talk about, okay? Then there's another creature called Neanderthal, which it's believed was quite sophisticated. We've apparently got some decent fossil evidence to show that they had religion, art, cities, farming, and so forth. And then there's the most interesting creature of all, called a conehead. Now these creatures are in museums in South America, Greece, and other places, so don't even sit here and tell me that it's not real. You can go to South America and see these skulls for yourself, okay? What they are is just like the Saturday Night Live coneheads. They're just like that. They've got big cone heads, okay? And it's interesting, the ancient Mayans, they depicted their gods as, and their shamanic kings as having these big cone-like heads. Okay, and of course a lot of the fossils are found down in that area. Of course, there was that recent Raiders of the Lost Ark movie that was all about this too. They kind of mixed two ideas: crystal skull theory, crystal skulls, and cone heads. Crystal skulls, of course, are another thing that are in museums. What do we have here? We have something. Some sort of huge head and presumably ultra-massive brained creature that was all over the world. And apparently some cultures like the Mayan worshiped them in the recent past. This is unbelievable. This is incredible information. Why is it not on all these news stations? I mean, what are the news talking about today? Britney Spears some more? Obama? I mean, this is unbelievable. Okay, who are these creatures? Is this the Elohim? Or some extraterrestrials? Is it another just kind of human that was around? What relation did they have to us? Why were some ancient religions worshiping these people? Were other ancient religions worshiping these people? We have to get to the bottom of this.
We're going to put these just really gateways
This is a gateway to the cloud. We're going to put gateways to the cloud in our brains. Just like the cloud can give you 1,000 or 1,000,000 computers for a tenth of a second, you need another billion pattern recognizers. You'll be able to access that in the cloud. That's where we're headed. And we'll be more intelligent.
That's Ray Kurzweil, the most well-respected transhumanist and futurist, working towards creating a new species of cyborgs. He's not just dreaming about this. He's not just working towards it. He's actually getting closer every day. Ray predicts by the year 2045 that we will achieve immortality and be able to upload our brain into the internet.
From this moment, the Korean People's Army Supreme Command will put its field artillery units on the highest alert. That includes strategic rocket units and long-range artillery units, which are assigned to strike bases belonging to the US imperialist aggressors' troops on the US mainland and on Hawaii and Guam and other operational zones in the Pacific, as well as all the enemy targets in South Korea and its vicinity. In order to protect our nation's sovereignty and the highest dignity, we will show off our army and our people's stern reaction through military actions.
Well, we have our big vehicle out here, the armored vehicle, MRAP vehicle, mine resistant, ambush protected, that's what it stands for. That's what we use to deliver our team to high-risk foreign services.